Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things here. There's some house races right around where I live in Naperville that are interesting to look at. Lauren Underwood's race, Sean Casten. There's some races down the southern part of Illinois and different parts, the 13th and the 17th, which are open seats. There's some interesting stuff in the House here. But looking nationally, like most of us, all eyes are on the Senate, the balance of power in the Senate. We see the races in Georgia and Arizona, in Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Wisconsin. Most of those also have governor's races. The balance of power right now in both chambers of Congress is very, very slim for the Democrats. It doesn't take a lot of seats for Republicans to take control, which is why we've seen so much spending and such a fervor to get voters out. Turnout is high, higher than 18 across the board so far. We're seeing that. And so it's really just a matter of, like all elections, who's turning out more.
Those of us who are kind of nerds about elections are also looking at polling, and pollsters themselves are very nervous about how they did, more so than normal, because it's getting even harder to come up with an accurate poll. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. As a political scientist and someone who engages in forecasting, polls are at the foundation of what we do. And when the polls miss steps, then we miss steps with forecasting. And then it also inhibits the voters' trust in the polls when we seemingly get it wrong. And so there's some things back from 2016, things that pollsters have learned about where we need to go to make sure we get an accurate count of people, about the mechanisms that we use to get people to opt into polling and how we get a hold of them. And then once we talk to them, how we weight those data appropriately to make sure we're getting an accurate representation of the public at large. The polls have gotten better, but they are not perfect. And what we know in the midterms is that there's also less funding for polling, and the polls we do see tend to be sponsored by partisan sources. So this is why in the midterms, the polls tend to be tricky, and we have to be careful with exit polls as well. When we see some data tonight, we need to wait till those settle down and look at them tomorrow morning and then really see what we think is going on.
So much to think about. Yeah, very complicated.